Let's get started. All you need to do is talk about what's been going on in your life at the moment. Say whatever comes to your mind and do not feel that you need to hold back anything or feel embarrassed. I'm not here to judge you or your actions. I'm only here to help you.
Well, I'd say it all began when my mother approached me Sunday afternoon. At least I think it was Sunday. The weekends tend to get away from me. But anyway, she was asking if I thought of being married. Then she told me that my father had considered allowing me to be married to Count Paris, and that I should think about the possibility of marrying him. My father assumed I wished to be married. I'm not even 14 yet. Then that night my father threw a party at our house, and I met Romeo. There was just an instant connection between us.
Could you describe the party and how you met Romeo?
It was a normal, high-dignity party. It was lavish, with lots of food and dancing. The unmarried men wore masks to conceal their identity, which I assume is how Romeo and the other Montagues were able to sneak into the party. I was dancing with family and friends, and at the end of one of the dances, he appeared behind me. This guy started singing this song. I sing it to you, but it's not really important, and I kind of forgot the words. But while everyone was distracted, we spoke and kissed right there in the center of the party, yet it felt like there was no one else there. As everyone was leaving, I asked the nurse to name several different people. I was devastated when I found out that my mystery lover was Romeo and was a Montague, who was a family foe and totally off limits.
Explain what happened after the party.
Later that evening, I was out on the balcony when Romeo suddenly appeared. I told him I would refuse to marry Paris, and I would marry him so we wouldn't be foes anymore. And then he confessed his love to me too. The following morning, I sent the nurse to speak with my love. When she returned, she said I was to go to the Friar Lawrence's chambers for a confession because Romeo had arranged for the friar to marry us. Later that afternoon, there was a fight between the two houses, and both Mercutio and Tybalt were killed. Because the prince's kin was killed, Romeo was not executed, but was banished. My father agreed to have me married early the following Thursday morning to Count Paris as an attempt to bring me out of my woeful state that they believed was over my cousin Tybalt. I would rather be dead than be married to Paris.
It seems you resent your father for arranging the marriage because you were married to Romeo. Yet your father didn't know of the marriage, and you've only known Romeo for several hours. Is that correct?
It's not so much that he arranged the marriage, but that he would arrange it so quickly after losing a family member. If he was trying to bring me out of my grief, he should have given me time to grieve at all. And it bothers me that he didn't speak to me before doing so. I'm the only child he has left. You'd think he'd take my feelings into account when making plans that so greatly affect my life.
Are you and your father close? If not for Tybalt death, do you think he would have asked for your input? Many fathers wouldn't ask before arranging a marriage.
We're very close, and I think he'd take my opinion into account. All my siblings have died, and he's always said he cared about how I felt. I love Romeo and would truly rather die than break my wedding vows to him and marry Paris. It's my life. I should get to control it.
It seems you're thinking with an all-or-nothing thinking mentality. Either you can love whomever you choose or kill yourself. If it weren't for Romeo, could you love Paris?
Whether or not I could love Paris is beside the point. I cannot control whom I love, but I could control whom I marry, and I am married to Romeo, and could not love or marry Paris at the same time.
It seems we're always coming back to you wanting control of what goes on. Did you get control as a child?
I did not get to control much. I could tell my nurse what to do, but especially when I was little, she didn't listen to me. My mother and father didn't let me control anything at all. I did whatever they told me to do. More often than not, I was sent to spend time with my nurse and her husband.
Did you ever refuse to do as your parents asked? Did you not like having to go to the nurse's house all the time?
I never refused to do what they asked, and I never really talked back to them, because they always put so much pressure on me to be perfect. Then to become the perfect young lady, and then to become the perfect wife. And I didn't mind going to the nurse's home, because she acted more like the mother than mine did.
What kind of pressure did they put on you? Did they tell you they wanted you to be perfect, or did it just feel that way?
Well, I suppose they never really said that. But they always told me how proud they were when I acted like the perfect young lady. But when I was a little kid and I threw tantrums, or didn't act the way they wished, they talked about how disappointed they were in me.
Did their telling you they were disappointed in you and the way you acted mean they were trying to make you perfect? Or were they just trying to make sure that you weren't spoiled and that you could act mature? If they never set a boundary for that kind of behavior, then you'd never be prepared to be a mother yourself.
Whether or not they were trying to make me act more mature and prepare me to be a mother, it was all about me being the perfect lady. They didn't care if I was happy. My father would often ask me how I felt, and I'd lie and say that I was happy, just so I didn't disappoint him.
Did you move so quickly with Romeo because it was something you could choose and control?
Yes, I do suppose we moved quickly. But if it were an arranged marriage, we'd barely know each other before we got married. And yes, I suppose that it was true that it was something I could choose, so I could control that aspect of my life. That is not the reason I married Romeo. We are in love, and true love doesn't need time to develop. True love involves just knowing it's right. And I have that with Romeo and could never have it with Paris.
Since Romeo has vanished, and you're supposed to marry Paris in just a few days, what do you plan to do? Killing yourself is just running away from your problems. Would you be willing to run away to be with Romeo?
I don't know if I could leave my parents, especially without being in Verona, so that they knew I was alright. But I also could not be without my Romeo. I could never admit to my parents that I had been secretly married to a Montague, though. It would cause the feud to become even worse, and I cannot imagine what would happen to the Friar Lawrence for performing the ceremony.
Juliet, you need to take into account all the positives and all the negatives of your options. This choice is something you get to control. No one can tell you what the right decision is in a position like this. You need to listen to your heart and go with what you think is right. I'll see you at your next session.